I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this program and for giving me the opportunity to speak here. Thank you. So, the title of my talk is An Equivariant Analog. Yes. And this is joint work with Amalendu Krishna. So before I go to the equivariant analog, I would first like to motivate the problem by talking about the non-equivariant setting. So motivation. The story on the non-equivariant side begins with the Serres-Faber's problem on projective modules, which states the following. Over a field K, every vector bundle over the affine n space A and K is trivial. So by vector bundles, I'll always mean algebraic vector bundles, so locally free sheaves, and since I'll be working with affine schemes, I'll also use them interchangeably with projective modules. Yeah. After several partial results were proved, depending on the rank of the vector bundle, the n, the field K, etc., this was completely settled by Quillen and Suslin independently, who proved the Serres problem for all fields K and for all n. In fact, what they proved can be pushed one step further to show this. So if R is a regular ring of Krull dimension less than equal to 2, then every vector bundle on A and R is extended from the base. So by that I mean, given any vector bundle E over A and R, there exists some vector bundle over the base such that E is isomorphic to the pullback of F, where F is the map from A and R to spec R. So this is the right extension of the Serres problem to the case of regular rings, because even over the base there might exist non-trivial vector bundles. So all that we can hope for is that vector bundles on A and R are extended from the base. Okay, so this led to the natural question, what happens for regular rings of higher Krull dimension? That's called the Bas-Quillen conjecture. So if R is a regular ring of finite Krull dimension, then every vector bundle is extended. Okay. So this problem is not yet completely solved. So one of the best known results is due to Lindell, who proved this for regular rings, which are essentially of finite type over a field. Baskulin conjecture holds. And Popescu showed that if R is a regular ring which contains a field, then the Baskulin conjecture can be reduced to the problem of regular rings which are essentially of finite type over a field, and therefore we can conclude that it still holds. So regular rings containing a field. So this is the story on the non-equivariant side. So now we want to ask similar questions on the equivariant side. So first, what is the right analog of trivial bundles in the equivariant setting? I'll give a definition. So if G is a group scheme, for this definition, we just take some general group schemes, but later on we'll be very specific. So let G be a group scheme over a base S, and let X be a scheme with G action. Okay, then a J equivariant vector bundle over X is said to be trivial equivariantly trivial if there exists a G equivariant vector bundle over the base such that E is isomorphic to the pullback of F as G equivariant vector bundles. So this is an G equivariant sheaves. Okay. So what we are asking for is that the vector bundle is not just extended from the base, but its G action also comes from the base. In that case, we'll say that it's equivariantly trivial. So the equivariant analog of the Serres problem has been studied for some time over C, and it asks the following. So if we take a reductive group over C, and we take a space X, which is the total space of a G equivariant vector bundle. So it is V is a representation of C. Then is every vector bundle G equivariant vector bundle on X trivial, equivariantly trivial. So X is our affine space with a linear G action here, and the question asks, are vector bundles equivariant vector bundles over such X always equivariantly trivial? And the answer to this question in this generality is no. So this was proved initially. Knopp, Graf-Schwarz, Masuda, Petri. They produced several counterexamples for non-abelian reductive groups. So counterexamples for in fact, Knopp showed that whenever G is a reductive group whose connected component of identity is non-abelian, you can always find a X, which is the total space of some representation such that it contains non-equivariantly trivial vector bundles over it. So in that case, it's completely false. And then Masuda, Petri produced counterexamples for various finite non-abelian groups like dihedral groups, etc. So the only hope of solving this problem was when G is an abelian reductive group, and this was proved by Masuda, Moser-Joslin, and Petri. When G is abelian reductive. That is, G is a diagonalizable group over C. And later, a different proof was also given by Kraft and Schwarz independently. Okay. So just as we go in the non-equivariant case from the Serre's problem to the Bars-Quillen conjecture, we wanted to ask what happens over general fields, more general fields, or even other regular rings. So that is the equivariant Bars-Quillen question. So loosely it asks what happens when G is diagonalizable over a base spec R where R is a regular ring as before. So I'll just recall what's the definition of diagonalizable group schemes over general rings. Just a quick definition. So we'll always assume R is a connected commutative Noetherian ring. So by connected, I mean its affine scheme is connected. Sorry. Yeah. So let G be affine group scheme. And affine group scheme G over R is said to be diagonalizable if G is of the form, it's the affine scheme associated to a group algebra Rp, where P is a finitely generated abelian group. Okay. P is the group of characters of G in this case, and some examples to keep in mind are mu m, mu n, gm, etc. Okay.
Finitely generated abelian group scheme?
No, it's just a finitely generated abelian group, and we are taking the group algebra associated to
The examples that you wrote down are not abelian groups.
Sorry, they are commutative groups. I'm saying GM is just RZN, right? So ZN is finitely generated. Yeah. Okay.
Inside the brackets, so there is a spec R.
Yes.
And then inside. No.
Two lines
In
up.
the definite G, yeah. What is inside the R? A P.
P.
Who's P?
P is a finitely generated abelian group, which is the group of characters
When
of
G
G.
is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we answer that question in certain cases, and this is what we can say. Theorem. Okay. So assume that R satisfies the following. Every projective module over R is free and every finitely generated projector module is free, where Q is a cancellative for every Q. So for every monoid which is cancellative, torsion-free, normal, and contains no non-trivial units, and n is greater than or equal to 0. We assume that finitely generated projector modules over the monoid algebra are free. Then,
containing no non-trivial units.
yes, thank you. Sorry. Thank you. So then, if X is spec of sim of V dual, where V is in R, so under these conditions, we can show that the equivariant Bas-Quillen problem indeed has a affirmative solution. And these conditions are satisfied. The first condition demands that every projector module, not just finitely generated, is free over R. So this is satisfied, for example, if R is a PID or a local ring. Oh, I didn't say what G is. Okay, so G is a diagonalizable group scheme. Okay, and the second condition is satisfied, both the conditions are satisfied, for example, when R is either a PID, a regular local ring of dimension less than or equal to 2, or a regular local ring containing a field. Okay. And sorry?
I don't exactly recall, but it seems to me that if n is 0,
if n is 0, yeah.
so that holds for every r.
That holds for every r.
If there is no n, right? Isn't that?
No, now, yeah. He shows this for these cases, PIDs, regular local ring n. So yeah, this follows from, so, are due to Gubeladze's proof of Anderson's conjecture.
So in number three,
the n included.
in number 3 we have regular and singular.
Sorry? Regular local ring containing a field. Oh yeah.
But ring.
Sorry. Okay. And we proved this problem using a more general theorem about equivariant vector bundles on affine G-toric schemes, which itself was proved for R equal to complex numbers by Masuda, using the idea of Kraft-Schwarz proof of equivariant Serre problem. Okay. So before I get to that, let me just quickly recall what are affine G-toric schemes. So affine toric schemes. So let L be a lattice a half space in L. Half space is a subset of LQ of the form L inverse of Q plus, where L is a linear functional. By LQ I mean L tensor Q. And Q plus is the set of non-negative rational numbers. Okay. A cone is a intersection of finite number of half spaces. Cone sigma in LQ. So all our cones are convex, polyhedral and rational. Cones dimension of a cone sigma in LQ is the dimension of smallest subspace of LQ containing sigma. Okay. And the cone is said to be strongly convex if sigma generates LQ. So we'll always assume all our cones are in fact strongly convex, polyhedral and rational. We can do that by replacing LQ by the subspace generated by sigma. So sigma be a So now we take the monoid algebra associated to this cone, L sigma, R of L sigma. This monoid is cancellative, torsion free, normal, and is finitely generated. This is the associated monoid algebra. So then the associated affine scheme is called the affine toric scheme. So we take a strongly convex polyhedral rational cone in LQ where L is a lattice and consider the monoid algebra associated to it, and the affine scheme associated to that monoid algebra is called an affine toric scheme. Okay. And we have an inclusion L sigma inside L. So this gives a map from T sigma to X sigma. T sigma is this is an open subscheme of X sigma, and T sigma is a torus. Okay. And also the graph map induces a map from T sigma cross X sigma to X sigma, and this gives an action of the torus on X sigma. So there is an action of T sigma on X sigma which extends the multiplication action of T sigma on itself to X sigma. So T sigma sits as a invariant open subscheme inside X sigma. Okay. So maybe I'll give some examples. So if my lattice is Zn and sigma is Qn, then X sigma is Gm per n equal to T sigma. And sigma An and T sigma is Gm per n. Okay. Now what is a affine G-toric scheme? So now let G be a diagonalizable group scheme over R. Then an affine toric scheme with a G action which comes from a map from given by a map from G to T sigma is called an affine G-toric scheme. Okay. So there is a natural action of T sigma on X sigma, and whenever we have a group homomorphism from G to T sigma, that induces a map from an action of G on X sigma, and such affine toric schemes are called affine G-toric schemes. Okay. So maybe I should define what are phases. Okay. A subset of sigma is called a phase if tau is of the form sigma intersection L inverse 0, where L is a linear functional which is non-negative on sigma. And given such a face of a cone is always a cone. And given a face, we can do this. We can take the monoid associated to tau and take the monoid algebra and the affine scheme associated to that. Where this is L tau. Then X tau sits as a closed subscheme of X sigma. And this is this inclusion is given by the map L sigma to L tau, which is the indicator function. And also we have a natural inclusion of L tau inside L sigma. And this gives a retraction map from X sigma to X tau. So a phase sits as a T sigma invariant closed subscheme inside X sigma. The scheme associated to that, and also we have a T sigma invariant retraction map from X sigma to X tau. Okay. So what are examples of affine G toric schemes? So the example 0 is that every affine toric scheme is a affine T sigma toric scheme. For every phase tau, X tau is a affine T sigma toric scheme. So X tau is a affine toric scheme because face of a cone is again a cone. It might have a torus different from T sigma, but there is a map from T sigma to the torus of X tau, and that induces a T sigma action such that it becomes a affine T sigma toric scheme. And then if, okay, yeah. Let X to spec we do well where P is R and each xi, so G is a diagonalizable group scheme. And xi is a semi-invariant. Then X is a affine G toric scheme. This is the example we would be interested in when we come to the equivariant Bas-Quillen conjecture. Okay. And here we are assuming that V is a direct sum of one-dimensional G equivariant line bundles, and this would be forced by our assumption 1 of the theorem 1. Okay. So this is the theorem we have about affine G toric schemes. Assume that R satisfies the following. Every projective module on R is free. And every finitely generated projective module on RZN is free. For all n. 1. Then if then okay, G is spec RP, and let X sigma be a affine G toric scheme. If every vector bundle on X tau and X tau mod G is extended, then every G equivariant vector bundle is equivariantly trivial. We assume that if R satisfies condition 1 of the previous theorem and the fact that every finitely generated projective module on torus over R is free, then if G is a diagonalizable group scheme and X sigma is a affine G toric scheme, and if we assume that normal non-equivariant vector bundles on x tau and the quotient x tau mod G are trivial, then we can actually conclude something about the G equivariant vector bundle. So here the quotient is just the geometric, no, it's just a categorical quotient. Okay, yeah. Okay. So when R is C, this is due to Masuda. Maybe, okay, maybe write that one as a corollary. Masuda, R is C. So when R is a PID and G is a diagonalizable group scheme over R, and if we take any affine toric scheme which is affine G toric scheme, affine then every G equivariant vector bundle on X sigma is trivial, it's equivariantly trivial. These conditions are satisfied when R is a PID. So again, this is due to Kaplansky, I think. No, it's due to Bass. And this one is satisfied, all these conditions are satisfied by Gubuladze's theorem. Okay. So theorem 2 will imply theorem 1 because by the example that we discussed, so the Bass-Quillen conjecture, the setup we have, what we get is a affine G toric scheme, and therefore by this theorem it will imply that the equivariant Bass-Quillen conjecture holds in that case.
Does every monoid of the kind that you're worried about arise in this fashion?
Sorry.
So all these cancellative torsion-free normal
Yes.
finitely generated monoids, do they all arise in this way?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't need to worry about the adjectives as much.
So if the P is itself free,
Okay.
so that's essentially the case when the group is the lattice.
Yes. It's the torus. Yeah.
And so the other case is when G is finite.
Yeah. Or the product of something like that. It might be a GM cross mu and that kind of a situation. Okay, so the rest of the time I'll give a sketch of proof of theorem 2. So first we reduce to the case when G is a subgroup of T sigma. Step 1, reduction to G sitting inside T sigma. So we have a map from G to T sigma, which is giving the action. So let G, let's say this is spec of R of Q, which is again a diagonalizable group scheme. So then we prove the following. If every H equivariant vector bundle is trivial, then every G equivariant vector bundle is also trivial. Okay, so proof. So if we start with some E, which is a G equivariant vector bundle on X sigma, because G is diagonalizable, I can write this as direct sum of one-dimensional thing, not one dimension, but yeah, characters. Yeah, EB, where this is a decomposition as R modules. R, okay, maybe A sigma G modules. E prime A. Now, suppose we collect those direct summands which have the same character mod Q, then each E prime A is clearly a R module, but the claim is that it's also a module. E prime A. Oh, my A is just A sigma. Okay.
What does it say next? So the first decomposition of E to the X sum is a what module?
It's a sigma G module. So by that I mean it's a module with a G action. Each one is just a G equivariant piece. Yeah. Okay. So to show that E itself is trivial, it's enough to show each of this E prime A is trivial. And E prime A is trivial. So choose B, which is congruent to A mod Q. Then E prime A is trivial if and only if tensor equivalently. Okay. So each E prime A is trivial if and only if E prime A tensor R minus B is trivial. But now this E prime A tensor R minus B is a H module. So by our hypothesis, that would be trivial, and that would imply that also this is trivial as a G equivariant vector bundle. Okay. So next we show that E restricted to the torus is trivial. Now we are assuming G is sitting inside T sigma and E belongs to like G of X sigma. Okay. But since G is a subgroup of T sigma, G acts on T sigma freely. So every vector bundle comes from the quotient. And we know that over the quotient, everything is trivial by our hypothesis. It's trivial as a non-equivariant bundle, and that would imply that this is in fact trivial. Okay. Maybe E equal to P plus F for some E prime. Okay. But So P is my map from X sigma to X sigma mod G, and I have this map to spec R. This is F, and this is F prime. Okay. So this shows that E restricted to the torus is trivial. So now we use induction on the dimension of the cone. Induct on dimension sigma. So by induction hypothesis, if we start with some E in X sigma, then E restricted to X tau is trivial for every proper phase of sigma. And in fact, we can patch up these trivializations to get a trivialization over the union of the faces. So how do we do that? Okay, suppose I had just two faces in codimension 1. So okay, this is what I want to show. To show E restricted to Y is trivial, where Y is the union of X tau, where tau is a codimension 1 phase. Okay. So suppose I had just tau 1 and tau 2, two codimension 1 phases, and I knew that E restrict to X tau 1 is trivial and E restricted to X tau 2 is trivial. Okay. So this might be isomorphic to some other F prime, but by restricting to the smallest phase, which is a torus, I can always assume that these two F are the same. So then I need to patch these isomorphisms. We have a retraction map which goes from X sigma to X tau 2. Let me call this phi 2. So this induces a map X tau 1 to X tau 1 intersection X tau 2. Phi 2. So now take phi 1 tilde equal to this and phi 2, these patch up. So we pull back this automorphism of F on the intersection using the equivariant retraction, and then use that to modify phi 1 such that phi 1 and phi 2 now patch up on the intersection. So this gives a trivialization of E on the union of X tau 1 and X tau 2. Okay. So the same way we can do it for any finite number of phases. So now step 4. Now we have a P sigma on which E is trivial. On the complement it is trivial. So now we extend it to a small neighborhood of this complement. So we show that there exists some H I y belonging to H E such that E H is equivalently trivial. Okay. So we have a map from E restricted to Y to Fy, say, and we have the inverse Fy where F is in Hg of R and E is in Hg of X sigma. So this gives in fact a map from E to F mod I Y, and this, no, this has to be the inverse. Yeah. So we get two maps, E to F restricted to IY and F to E restricted to Y. And now we use the fact that every projective module, which is G equivariant, is also a projective object in the category of AG modules. In this particular case, when G is diagonalizable. So this extends to maps from E to F. Okay, and we take H to be the determinant of these. And it can be verified that it satisfies this criteria. So now we have trivialization on two equivariant open sets, and we just have to patch it up on the intersection to get a trivialization on whole of X sigma. And that is the final step. So the main idea here is that we have trivializations on this open set and on the torus. So we descend them to the quotient, making some technical things which I won't maybe get into. And then on the quotient we know that vector bundles are trivial. We use that to say that these automorphisms can be modified such that this just gives a trivial bundle, and on this data would then be again lifted up to show that these two automorphisms on that open set and T sigma now patch up. So okay, idea. Descend. So we have this E restricted to T sigma is Ft sigma and E restricted to V is Fv, where V is E sigma H and it contains Y and X sigma. Descend. Okay. So this T sigma may not be the inverse of some open set in the quotient, so we need to find a W sitting inside T sigma such that the W is in fact the P inverse of some open set inside the quotient. Okay. So this is the main technical step and it takes some work, which is the basic idea behind that is just that we descend it to the quotient. Okay. So what can we say when R is not a local ring and not a PID? We can say something, but it's it's not much. So maybe corollary. Let R be a regular ring such that Rp satisfies the hypothesis of theorem 1. Okay. And let G be a diagonalizable group scheme over R. Then if V is where each xi is semi-invariant, let G of R, then every J invariant vector bundle is trivial.
Is the P,
Sorry?
is the subscript P of the R a prime ideal?
Yeah, for every prime ideal of.
So, that's different from the only the generated.
Yes,
P.
yeah, sure. So maybe I will just take it as. Yeah. Sorry. So then, if X is spec of sim of V, then every G equivariant vector bundle on X is trivial. So in this case, when R is not a local ring, we have to put the condition that V is a direct sum of one-dimensional things because it doesn't come from the assumptions. So, and in the general case, we do not know how to do this because we use a Quillen's patching, equivariant version of Quillen's patching theorem, and that requires induction on Xi's. So I have to already assume the Xi's are semi-invariant, and I don't know how to remove that hypothesis. So anyway, so that's all that I wanted to say. Thank you.
So, any questions?
So you had two hypotheses, and the first one was that any projective modules on R is trivial. So do you get non-finitely generated projective modules at some place? Because in the second one, you especially put
Right.
that finitely generated
Right.
projective modules.
Because when we start with a projective module over A, which is what we want to be trivializing, that may not be a finitely generated thing over R, although A is a free thing. So over that something, if we take we want that also to break down into direct sum of one-dimensional things, basically. And that is where the non-finitely generated things comes.
What did you mean by semi-invertible?
Semi-invariant. So we have an action of G on V. So
Yeah.
this V is a RG module. I want it to be a direct sum of one-dimensional RG modules. Like each Xi, I want it to be invariant under the G action.
So, G times
So
Xi is a
semi-invariant.
multiple.
So yeah, it's a multiple of Xi access.
So I got lost somewhere when you went to step 3. So, but the general idea would be that, I mean, you know, it's true for the lowest space, which
Yes.
is sigma, and then somehow you pull it up.
Yes.
But, and so here the faces are proper,
Yeah.
okay. And what makes it, I mean, so if your sigma has dimension 1000 and it is very far, so why is it that you can pull it up to all the proper faces and not to the whole thing from the start? I mean, that must be obvious from the proof, which I didn't follow.
Right. So, sorry. So on the smallest space, it's just a torus. So we know how to do it on that.
Yeah.
So now suppose my sigma was just one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
So over that, I want to somehow get a trivialization on the rest of the thing and then patch it. So the idea is so the idea is basically to pull it from the base, but you want to do it step by step, like from the torus to the next step when you go, that is where the induction is like happening, which is basically step 3. So there I'm going from codimension 1 phase to the pole of sigma.
Okay. Any more questions? If not, then we thank